and welcome to another exciting episode of the Why I Love Disney podcast. I'm here with Easton and David once again. Hello, fellas. How are you today?
Hey, guys.
Hey, doing good.
We are coming here after an incredible, huge weekend of sports where DirecTV does not have any ESPN content once again. So, again, last week, I said, I was surprised there are still DirecTV customers. This does happen from time to time with different, TV broadcasts. They get in a dispute with a certain network, and the network wants more money, and they kind of pull their content until they get it, and it usually gets worked out. But I can't think of a worse thing for a company than to have consumers who can't get their live sports or their live entertainment like they want. It's one thing if it's on demand and you're without it for a couple of days. It's another thing if you miss it live. And sports is the one thing that, if you were to take away my Kentucky football games or my Kentucky basketball games, I would go looking for another TV provider. So have they made any headway? Do you think, and who do you think's at fault here? Do you think, or anybody moving forward? Did you guys get to watch on your DirecTV anything that's any sports this weekend?
Well, I don't have DirecTV. I do.
I didn't.
I do travel a lot, and I stay in places that do have DirecTV. And so those can be, if you're traveling in a hotel that uses DirecTV service, you would be affected also.
Do you think Disney's bullying this poor little company? And that's the kind of the headlines I'm reading. There's a little bit they're trying to paint each other as the bad guy because they want to win the PR battle because, the regular consumer sitting at home missing their college football game or their NFL game. And they're like, who do I blame for this? And so everybody's spinning a story. So who do you think's winning the battle at the moment?
Well, not being really on the inside, how do you know? But I definitely have seen more articles pointing to Disney as being the bully over DirecTV.
Do you think that's fair and warranted, David?
I don't. Actually, it just frustrates me that this kind of stuff's even in the news. Again, we're talking a lot lately about creative decisions and wanting to see great content put out, and this is the focus of the news, and that just constantly troubles me that it's just more of the same kind of stuff. I'm really tired of these kind of stories. I want to hear great stories of great park content and great movies. That's what I want to hear.
Yeah, just one more cutthroat corporate story about how Disney is sticking it to the little man.
Well,
you know what I mean?
And it's just
that's kind of the interpretation.
It's just a repeat of the same story. It feels like we went through with Charter Spectrum, yet somehow Charter Spectrum came out, and that's what I did see that article put out that people were like, why did that work out the way it did? And this seems to have hit a different spot. And I don't know those dynamics of why DirecTV is in a different place than they were. Maybe it's the size of the company or the influence of their company. I don't know, but it does seem like Disney is playing a tough game with them here.
Some hardball. Yeah. So that's interesting. Like when you say it like that, I do tend to agree. This is boardroom corporate stuff for real. But what happens a lot of times is this is a PR battle, and I do think there is a sentiment that if you were to ask people of all the things you pay for monthly, what are the companies that you like the least? Your cable or television provider is usually on that list, along with your internet provider. Sometimes they're the same people, right? Your cell phone provider, your utilities in general. You hear social media anger, always directed at AT&T or Verizon or Spectrum, or these are real easy targets because if it goes out, if it's snowing, if there's a storm, and your internet's out, man, you go after those people.
Right.
So it almost feels like it's Disney. It's an easy fight to pick for a company like Disney, because people hate their service providers anyway. But I think what Disney's finding out is there's already so much negative news towards them that maybe it's equaling the playing field a little bit, right? Whoa. That DirecTV and these providers have some ammo to come right back at them. Would you agree with that assessment?
Well, I would definitely say over the past 4 years, it just feels like one publicity thing over another where you're going, whose side are you going to take, Disney's or the other? I mean, from the governor of Florida to Scarlett Johansson to park employees to Gina Carano to a husband and his wife in Raglan Road at Disney Springs. I mean, there've been multiple. There's just multiple. It feels like constantly. It's like who's got the high road here and who does not. So I don't know. I'm just, like I said, it feels like a broken record. I'm a little tired of. Now I do agree that I totally understand the sentiment that, man, when you're not getting the show that you want to see or the event that you want to see on your provider, that's frustrating. But again, it's you've got a content creator who's saying, here's our demands and the way you have to do it. And if you're a company that says we can't support that, you can't push us to do that, we can't afford that, or we can't make it that way, you're going to kill us, you're going to put us out, I can understand that sentiment as well. I mean, we're all kind of stuck because typically, like where I am, we have one cable option. And we're in a large suburb area of a major city, but I have one cable provider that I can go with. I have one cell phone company that really covers our area. I mean, we're very, you can be in a large area in a very populated area and still be really restricted over what choices you have. And again, DirecTV, that's usually for people that don't have cable. They don't have other options. If you're using that service, it's because you're in a little bit more remote area, or you're somewhere where the terrain doesn't provide a good a signal, so you have to go with one of these dishes and things like that. And so you're already stuck. Like, what do? You can't just go switch and go, well, I'll get rid of that and I'll get this. Although you probably have it because that's what works. So Disney,
that's a great point.
They're sticking it to the customer really, because it's like, well, let them go get a different company then, and it's like, no, they can't. So I'm usually going to get mad at the provider. I'm not the cable provider. I'm going to get mad. I thought that with the Spectrum thing. I thought to pull that trick. I thought Charter Spectrum did the right thing. It's like, put the blame back where it was. They're bullying you. Show your customers what they're doing. And I think it did give Disney negative press. I hate that, but I think if I had been over Charter Spectrum, that's what I would have done too.
So, can you tell me, like, who are your providers, internet and television?
My internet is, and cable. We still have cable, and we've gone back and forth, but we still have cable right now, and that's all through Comcast. And our cell phone is through AT&T.
Oh, gotcha. Comcast, which is supporting Universal Studios over there.
Yes,
it's great. You see, and Easton, what about you? Curious.
We don't have cable, so.
Oh, well, see, and that's more and more of the issue. I think that's do you have internet television? Do you just do streaming only?
Yeah, we just stream like Netflix and all of the things.
I think you're the growing demographic of people who don't have. I have YouTube TV, which goes through my internet provider, which is through Spectrum, internet provided through Spectrum. So yeah, I'm dependent on my internet to get live television, right? And then I use YouTube to do that. And I'm like you, like the only reason I have YouTube TV and live television is for sports. That's it. Maybe news, live news,
right.
But that's really it. But more and more, I kind of think, if I could live without this, I could save myself a lot of money. And I think more and more people are like you. They're just on demand, Netflix, maybe Disney Plus, those sorts of things. Because it's changing a lot. But that's really interesting. I was really curious about it. So, speaking of bad publicity, that there was a huge. I didn't mean to talk that long about the DirecTV issue, but it does kind of piggyback onto this huge article that came out over the weekend. The New York Times posted getting into the entire boardroom drama at Disney, dealing with Bob Chapek and Bob Iger and that whole saga. Very interesting. I have not read the entire thing yet. I'm not as prepared as I should be. But based on what you guys have seen and read, what are your thoughts on that? And do you find it interesting? Is it more of like, that's what we always thought? Is it like, I told you so moment? Is it like, man, it's worse than we thought? What do you think about that? What do you think the reason was it came out?
Well, Easton and I were together yesterday evening, and we were talking about what we were going to do today. We normally record these on Monday, and I was saying just yesterday afternoon, it often feels like a lot of news really hits on Monday. And so after we've done after we've gotten together for the day, it seems like, so it was like, I was like, nothing really ever happens on Sunday. And then I look online and I start seeing all these posts about this New York Times article. So yeah, it definitely got some attention. And again, I was reminded of back when Bob Chapek was let go, and the stories were about how it went down, and everybody was going to an Elton John concert, and Bob Chapek gets blindsided, and I was struck when that happened. Like, who's leaking all this? Like, should people know that? I mean, this stuff just didn't happen like this years ago. It's like an episode of a soap opera where the gossip comes out. It's like the Real Housewives of the Disney boardroom kind of thing. Like, what is this? How does this stuff get leaked? So it reminded me of that. But there was a lot. Like, there were a lot of things that I thought, if all these and the New York Times says all of these quotes have been corroborated by multiple people. Like, they haven't just taken one person's quote. They've gone and said, "Were you there? Is this how you perceive?" I mean, the article talks about that they've tested these quotes with several people, and right. So you're reading this stuff and going, the egos in the room. Well, especially one person's ego seems to be off the charts, and which I've kind of thought since his legacy book came out right after he supposedly resigned from the company. And so with the whole Bob Iger, Bob Chapek story, it's just I kind of find it pitiful. I go, when I'm reading all this stuff and going, now why don't I trust? Why don't I have 100% trust in their choices in the part? Why I'm not looking forward to the next movie? Why I have doubts that the next movie will be great? I wonder why. Because it's kind of obvious, this kind of petty drama, and this is there. It's all about who's in control, who's in charge, who's getting the accolades, and it's not about making great content, it's just not. That's just not when you read this article. I mean, it makes me miss even the Eisner days where, there was this sense of, we got to be great. We gotta match the legacy that came before us. And I just think that this kind of article makes you realize, like, this stuff is lost. It's lost. Maybe it can get back, but right now it's in the struggling zone. What'd you think? What did you guys think? I can go off on this stuff forever.
I think it's crazy that we've spent so long just assuming that Chapek was kind of the villain and Iger came in and saves the day. And then right as the time where everyone starts going, actually, Iger's making a lot of bad decisions. And we're kind of starting to think that Iger's not really the big saving factor that we all thought he was. And then this comes out, and it's totally like running him through the mud and making Chapek look like he was the scapegoat the whole time, which is kind of was Dustin's theory the whole time.
Yeah, the article definitely just implies multiple times where Bob Iger throws Bob Chapek under the bus, lets him take the fall for certain decisions, or says he agrees with something, then he bashes it, or just, I mean, there's several of those. And again, I think you're right. Why? Why is this article in the New York Times right now? Who's leaking all this information? Now, there has been another article with CNBC, I believe it was, a while back that did similar. Like, who's leaking this? Why? Is somebody trying to make Bob Iger look bad so that down the road they look better? I don't know. There have been a lot of those speculations. I'll leave that to other people who are more in the know. I'm just, again, like, going, Why would these things be leaked? Who are the, and the article says that everything's under anonymity because a lot of these people are under non-disclosure agreements. So they have to be really careful that they don't get themselves in trouble. So, but again, that's why the article says they had to go back and double check with multiple people to make sure that there was consensus on these quotes. But, there's quotes with Chapek saying like, I don't think he'll ever leave. He's going to be here till he dies. I don't know that I can do this. I don't think I can take this. I mean, just it's really something. It's like the whole corporate C-suite just kind of exposed, and you're like, this shouldn't be out there. If you're on a board, you should be going, no, we're not gonna let this kind of gossip be in the New York Times. This isn't a YouTube video that a fan's done. This is the New York Times has written an article making our leadership team look like high school students in a dating.
It's true. But let me ask you this:
battle.
2019. In 2019, I would say we all and most of everyone had a pretty glowing view of Bob Iger. Would you agree with that?
I think so, definitely. I mean, he definitely has always been, at the time, was such a good. He did have that uncle, like, he's a polished, guy that people thought could be a great politician. It was like people used to say Walt Disney himself was like this uncle that you just trusted him like family. And I think when Eisner came in, it was a little more like, who's this guy, thinking I remember that it was kind of like he's trying to jump in Walt's shoes, and I don't know, but over time I really appreciated him because he really did seem to be trying to perpetuate the legacy of the company, pushing forward and doing new things, but not losing sight of where they came from. With Iger, it was more of a sense of, gosh, he's a really good statesman. He can get up there and make you feel good about what they're doing. It's kind of, again, like I said, like a good uncle or a professor or a teacher that you trust. And but then over the past few years, a lot more has come out, and you start going, does he really have the creative insight for this, or is he just a guy that buys stuff and sells stuff and tries to grow through buying up other people's product? I don't know. I mean, that's something that I think the next version of the Imagineering story is going to tell us down the road. Like, what is this episode that we're living through right now?
Yeah, I think it's remarkable how the view of him has shifted and changed in 5 years. He steps down. He's the greatest thing that's ever happened. The leadership book, and then within a couple of years, I think now the Chapek, what we would call the Chapek mess at the time, was really not the Chapek mess at all. I think it's really, a lot of it's fallen on Bob Iger, and his legacy, I don't think there's any question about it, has been tarnished, and is really kind of taken a huge hit, and now he finds himself embattled at every turn, from CEOs of other major corporations to, it sounds to me like, disgruntled board members and other employees who are not happy about how things have gone. And when that starts to happen, when you start to have leaks to the New York Times, this can't last much longer, in my opinion. I feel like this is the writing on the wall, that is the domino that falls, that is kind of the end of Bob Iger. I really do. I feel like his time, I'm making a prediction that he will not be the CEO 1 year from today. Well, that's my prediction.
We'll see. I do feel like there. I saw several things lately, again, just on culture. The whole cancel culture and how some of that has changed, and things that would have gotten you canceled in 2017, 2018 have shifted a little bit. But it does feel like there were several comments. Let me preface it first. There were several comments in the article about they're on a plane, and Bob Chapek's trying to talk about something, and Bob Iger's trying to talk about pictures of his yacht. Have you seen these pictures of my new yacht? And other comments about his pay, that so somebody else I don't know if it was this article or another one I read where he made a comment that some executive for another media company gets paid more than him. And I don't think that's faring well right now in culture. I do think when people hear somebody that makes that much money focusing on the money, whether they're a singer or a movie star or an executive, that kind of stuff right now really rubs people wrong because of the economy and things like that. When you hear somebody that you're trying to support their company and you hear them say, I mean, it just puts a bad taste in my mouth for what they're going to say. So that I do think is a big red flag. Anytime you talk about yourself all the time and you only talk about your accomplishments and everything negative is a we and everything positive is a me, your days are probably shortening.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let me ask you this: just it's political season, right? What would you say his approval rating is? Like Bob Iger. So if you're, and again, there's a lot of people that have no idea who he is. I would say most people have no idea who he is. So let's just talk about people who are Disney fans that would recognize the name Bob Iger as the Disney CEO and have some connection or affinity for Disney in whatever capacity. Maybe they're vacationers, maybe they're just fans of the brand, whatever. What do you think the approval rating is for Bob Iger right now? So for reference, I don't know because it doesn't exist. This is a hypothetical. But in 2018, I would bet the Bob Iger approval rating was around 75 to 80%. Right. Like, there's always somebody who's complaining, but most people were pretty happy with things. If that was the reference point of what it was then, what do you think his approval rating is now?
Based off of what I'm seeing in news, like YouTube and things that I'm personally seeing, just based off decisions he's made, I would guess the approval rate has got to be like less than half. Like I'm thinking
underwater?
Probably in the 40s.
Okay.
Low 40s, probably like a 43%.
Okay. Very specific. 43.2 maybe?
Yeah, maybe 43.2, leaning towards 0.3, but
all right. No, I mean, I think that's pretty reasonable and fair. David, what do you think? He's higher or lower than that?
Well, actually, I was very close to that. And the reason I would say that is because I think everything right now in our country is pretty politically divided. And I don't mean that this is a political issue necessarily. I just mean that things typically come out in a wash of 50-50. So I would imagine based on people who really follow this park and movie and entertainment company, people that really watch YouTube videos and they go see the movies and they go to the parks, that crowd, not just the average person, the crowd that really is interested, I would say you'd probably find some 40% approve, some 40% disapprove, and then the rest of the group is undecided, just like you would find in a political campaign. They're not sure. Like a 40-40-20, 20 are like, I can't decide. That's what I would think. And probably a few less undecided. Probably like 45-45 or something like that. But interesting. Because I just think that's where things are right now. I mean, I definitely get more negative feed, I think, on YouTube right now. But there's just some strong supporters. I mean, and I'm not talking about just, again, if you go to Disney content that Disney puts out, everything's going to be glowing. But there's some major YouTubers and vloggers and bloggers that only report incredible things about this company every day. So they still have a lot of great publicity out there. And people, I mean, again, I saw, I'll use Walt Disney World News Today, who's one of the biggest and longest standing vloggers out there. And just the other day, he said, I trust this company, and they're not going to wipe out Muppet Vision 3D because they're gonna they're going to do the right thing. And he had a very, very positive, stance on where, and he and said in the Chapek era it would have gotten bulldozed, but now they have a new vision. So he definitely is one that supports the leadership of the company right now and has very positive things to say. But there are many people that are making a lot of money out there right now talking about all the negative things Bob Iger does. That's for sure.
It's true.
Yeah, I would say I think you guys are being a little generous. I think the New York Times article actually indicates that his approval rating is lower than you think. I think we're under 40%. I think we're at in the 30s. I think he's in the 30s and he's scrapping and clawing for all he can find. So I actually, and I'm usually the optimistic one. Like, I think stuff's overblown. I actually think that's a sign, man. It's a tipping point, and I'm standing my prediction. I think he steps down before his contract's over, or is forced out.
Well, it goes all the way through 26.
Yeah, so it would be 2 years from now if things go just with his contract. But I think something's going to happen, and things are going to get bad enough when that stock price hits 75 sometime later this year. It's another prediction of mine. Board people are not going to be happy about that. So we'll see. Now, we will see. They do have a couple big movies at the end of the year. We'll see what their quarterly earnings are and see how everybody likes that. But you're right. It's caught up it's not untied to our political climate. You're exactly right. And really, I think but in my opinion, if I'm an investor, that's part of the problem. Is somehow our company's sentiment is seen as part of the culture wars now, front and center, and it just should not be. It should not be. It should not be in the middle of culture war political discussions on the left and right on talk shows, news talk shows. Disney should be a family entertainment company that provides a great experience for people.
Right.
Shouldn't be controversy at all. And there's too much of it, and I think it's coming to bite them.
Yeah, I do think, whether they like it or not, that's just been Disney has been the escape. You go into the park, it's surrounded by a berm, you leave the world outside, and you go somewhere else. And I think that's the way most of their movies have been. Even, I've quoted this before, there was a quote that Walt said years ago, like, I wish I could make a movie like To Kill a Mockingbird. But he didn't make movies like that because those type of movies pull you into they're great. It's a great movie, but it pulls you into political and social and cultural difficulties. And his movies really didn't do that. They were kind of family. Now, does it have to be that now? I'm not saying that, but that's still typically what family entertainment has been about. Great stories that you don't have to feel like you're going into a politically charged environment to watch the movie. Because
it would be great to come on Why I Love Disney podcast and not have to talk about this stuff. Right. Just we could talk about the new thing that's awesome and the stuff that's happening without the looking over our shoulder wondering if what's the real reason. Easton, you're now the official, what do you call the game master, the bracket maker. I feel like I'm trying to, whatever Willy Wonka is to Wonka chocolate, you are to the Why I Love Disney podcast. You bring the magic, you bring the fun. So what are we doing today?
I think it'd be really fun for us to do a little bit of a start bench cut.
So start bench cut. This is a sports analogy. It is the fall. We do have our teams. All my teams lost this weekend, so I've almost given up. I have my fall is free. I don't have to watch anything anymore. So I've got a lot of guys I'd like to bench and cut in my life. So give us the layout how this is going to work.
Okay, so we're going to do this in terms of attractions at Disney World.
So we're getting right into the controversy with all the Frontierland stuff, all right?
In light of all of this stuff of what's going away, what's coming in, people are upset about it, people are excited about it. We're gonna just do our own. I'm gonna give you 3 attractions specifically in the Magic Kingdom. I've got 3 rounds of this for us.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give 3 attractions, and we're each gonna decide which one we're gonna start, which would be our, your rope drop item, You're going to decide which one you're going to bench, which is going to be you want to keep it, but it needs some updating. It could use a revamping, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
And then you're going to decide which one you're going to cut, which one you're not doing of the three. You're not doing it, don't need it. And we're going to come in strong on this first round. It's not going to be easy.
All right. I can already tell David's got so much anxiety over there. Like I can just tell he's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna have to cut something. I don't want to." I can already feel it. I can't wait.
No, there's no problem because I'm not going to cut anything.
So for our first round, our 3 attractions are Pirates. You've got Haunted Mansion.
Oh,
And you've got Space Mountain.
no, you can't do that.
Oh yeah!
Wow.
We're starting off strong.
Wow. Okay. And you have to. We got to. Okay. So we got. It's sort of like we're ranked. All right.
Those are like my 3 most iconic nostalgia attractions. Probably.
That's why it's hard.
All right. But they're all such great attractions. All right. So
Right.
You're right. We established that in the real world, I hope all of these 3 of these attractions are around forever because they're all amazing. But if I've got to start one of those 3 attractions,
That's about impossible, guys. I'm sorry.
I'm starting Pirates.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I'm benching Haunted Mansion and I'm cutting Space Mountain. Boom.
What?
I'm cutting a mountain. That's how I'm doing it. I think the other 2 are too iconic. The only thing we have from there's movies around the other ones. They're IP, right?
Well, we got a
Space Mountain is still the only one
coming too, I think.
Yeah, but is it going to be like the Tomorrowland movie that you forget? Like in 3, everything that's come out of Tomorrowland that has not worked. But everything that's come out, I love Space Mountain. I love Space Mountain. But if I've got to cut one of them, I'm cutting Space Mountain.
That is crazy.
And honestly, Space Mountain's pretty dang old. It's pretty dang old. It's not, it could be, let's face it. It's like, it's not the thrill ride it was when you were a kid. You know what I'm saying? Like kids sort of roll their eyes at it a little bit now, even though we try to pretend like they don't. You know what I'm saying? I think of those 3, that's the one I'm cutting. All right, David.
All right. I have historically probably would have said my favorite is Haunted Mansion. As I've gotten older, my favorite, most iconic that I could ride over and over is Pirates. So I'm keeping Pirates, and Pirates has had a lot of modifications, and I think it could still have a few, but there was a lot of controversy when they took out the auctioning scene. The scene that creeped me out was the guy that had the girl in the barrel. Like she's popping it. Like as a kid, like I didn't really understand it. I thought that was a kid. I thought it was a kid popping up out of the barrel. It was a while before I realized he's got her clothes and she's hiding in a barrel like that. I'm sorry, that was a little, that needed to go. And then, and I definitely to put Jack Sparrow in, that was a great plus. I think every time I go to Disneyland, and I love Haunted Mansion, every time I go to Disneyland and they do the Nightmare Before Christmas version and we see that, it's so full and there's so much more to see than in the Haunted Mansion. I'm always like, it makes me realize that the Haunted Mansion can be a whole lot more than it is. Not that I really want it to change. I love it. If it never changed, I would be fine. But I think, man, there's so much more you could put in here. There's so much more we could see. So it's one that I don't want to touch the ballroom scene, but there's a lot of just moments where you're kind of in the dark, and I guess that's setting a tone. But I mean, I think there's a lot that could be added. So, am I supposed to pick a second that I'm benching that's going to get an upgrade? If I had to bench one, then I would say and that people always say that Haunted Mansion's always getting updates, but it'll get like one little lighting effect. Like it could have a lot more. So I'm going to say that. And I guess if I got to cut one, I have to cut Space because it would be the easiest to recreate. And like they just did that in Tokyo. They're not just even the roller coaster. They rebuilt the building to make it more. They're going to redo the whole building to give it a whole new visual, similar but upgraded. So I love Space Mountain, but what I love about Space Mountain mostly is the riding a roller coaster in the dark. I do think that it's really important to have a family coaster that's a good starting coaster for kids, that doesn't have loops or twists, doesn't turn you upside down, because you've got to have that roller coaster. But that would be
that's in Frontierland. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you do have that. You do have Thunder Mountain, and I think Thunder Mountain is a better family coaster even than Space Mountain in a lot of ways, because it doesn't kill you. Space Mountain, as you get older, hurts a lot of people.
Yeah.
I still like it, but I hear a lot of other people my age that have retired from it. So, but I guess
if you want a great,
I can't cut. I mean, you can't cut Haunted Mansion and Pirates. They're just probably the most iconic Disney moments in the parks for years. So I would say it has to be out of those three. I got to cut Space.
I think you're exactly right. Easton, tell us where we're wrong.
Well, it sounds like all three of us, unfortunately, are cutting Space Mountain. Because for the same reason as both of you guys, I just can't find it in my being to cut either Haunted Mansion or Pirates. But now I do think where you guys are starting Pirates, I think I am actually going to start Haunted Mansion and bench Pirates. I think when I walk in, my first instinct is to find the Haunted Mansion.
And it is so close for me. It's so close.
It's so good. Pirates is the perfect, you kind of been walking around the park for a lot of the day. It's hot. Pirates is a good long ride to get on.
Yeah.
It's a great ride. You sit in and there's the water and it's nice and cool.
Line usually goes pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Haunted Mansion you're standing in the line outside for a lot of it.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Most of it, actually.
Okay. I love it.
I would also say one of the things that I really like, one thing that gives Pirates an edge over Haunted Mansion is when you're on Pirates, you're typically on, and nothing interrupts the show till you get maybe to the end, and then sometimes the boats back up and you're stuck there waiting to get out. But Haunted Mansion, you're often on the ride when it goes, please, I can't remember the little spiel right now, but basically they tell you to sit tight for a second, and you're just kind of stuck there for a second because they're transporting somebody off and on. And I really think that one major thing they could do there is to redesign that so that people with disabilities can get on and off without the ride stopping, and that will help a whole lot, because that's kind of a break in the show and the vibe. And also the people in the Haunted Mansion can, the stretching room, I mean, who you're with can really detract from the whole how spooky it is, or how crowded it is, or how smelly it is, or 1,000 things. Sure. And Pirates seems to be a little bit more when once you get in the boat, you're in the zone. So that gives it a little edge for me. But again, those are all iconic. I wouldn't get rid of any of those. And if you said we're not getting rid of any of these, which one needs the most updating? I would say Space Mountain. I might say Space Mountain needs could use the most. I'd keep the same structure, but I would probably be like, hey, let's rebuild this and make it smooth. I don't care if it stays the same, but I would take the ricketiness out. But that's probably controversial, because there are a lot of people that say don't change it. I love every drop, every twist. I know it like the back of my hand. But if I was keeping all three, it would be the one that I would be back. Let's plus this a little bit.
But you already cut it.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying.
It's cut.
I'm just getting my. If I get.
David's got a hedge. I just want you to know I wouldn't do it in real life. David's got to make sure we know. No, I'm with you. I'm totally with you there. On that, I think of the three, it's the most that could use a little more. It's been the same for a long time. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I think if I hadn't have ridden Hyperspace Mountain in Paris, it would have made it a lot harder. But I think I think Paris's Space Mountain is just so much better than.
Well, it is great, but it is not really a starter coaster for if it does have flips, and
No.
it is a lot more intense with the launch and everything.
I would say that the Magic Kingdom needs one thrill ride. We don't have any.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They need one, and I think that's a great candidate for a great dark thrill ride. You know what I mean? Up the ante a little bit. You know what I mean? Let's get some teenagers excited about the Magic Kingdom again.
I don't know with Tron. I don't know what the height requirement is for Tron, and it's a much smoother coaster. But I'm not sure everybody, because of the motorcycles. I don't know what height you have to be, so it's not as good of it's not as good a coaster for children as Space Mountain is.
Well, what else you got for us, Easton? Coming out of the gate swinging with that. I am glad. I will say I'm glad you didn't split up the biggies, because then it would have been super easy for us.
Yeah.
It'd be
True.
So at least now we have some controversy introduced. Good job.
And Dustin, there's actually something we agree on.
Yeah, totally agree. 100%.
For round 2 of our start bench cut, our options are Carousel of Progress, People Mover, and you've got Small World.
Wow.
Man.
It's a good one too, man. It's a good one.
I took a big swing with the first 3. The next couple rounds are a little I tried to pick rides that are really similar
Yeah,
to make it a little more challenging.
I like it. Okay. You want me to go first? I'm happy to. Or David, do you want to go first?
I'll let you go first. I'm thinking.
Okay. I'm going to start the People Mover.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to bench Carousel of Progress, and I'm cutting It's a Small World. I think,
snap.
and let me,
Snap.
Hey, I love the People Mover. I love it. It's fine how it goes all through. I think actually it stays, and whatever they do to Tomorrowland makes it better, right? So as Tomorrowland enhances, that only makes the People Mover better. All right. So I just have a soft spot in my heart for the People Mover. I think it's great. It's Carousel of Progress, I think, has been on the. I have a lot of that's a great space. It's really creative how that thing works and what it was intended to do. It's just been years and years since it was relevant and actually interesting. So I think there's so much potential there that is, to me, an obvious bench that needs an upgrade. And to be honest, I don't hate It's a Small World, and it is one of the original. I know this is heresy for Disney people, but it's kind of, let's face it, it's a little creepy, it's a little outdated, and it's kind of boring. And they should make it a Lion King ride. I'm going to say it. Cut it. It's a Small World.
Well, that's a tough one, because you've picked. You've got one that is a moving ride. Who wants to cut a moving ride? Then you've got 2 iconic Walt Disney breathed attractions, both that were for the World's Fair in 1964 and made their way to the parks. But I think, I definitely prefer, of the 3, this is just my preference. I would have to keep the People Mover. I think it's just, now, although I've never understood, just give us something to look at. How hard is this? The People Mover if the People Mover just had a little bit of show, everybody would ride it. So that's probably why they don't do it, because they don't need to. And that always ticks me off a little bit too. It's we don't have to, so we don't. That's a big negative I have with Disney, is they don't do anything that they don't have to do, whereas any creative person would say you need to do. So I do think People Mover needs something.
So are you starting the People Mover?
I'm starting the People Mover.
Oh.
So then I have to.
Okay.
I can't cut the People Mover. I can't cut the People.
No,
Mover.
you can't cut the People Mover.
And so I think, man, that's a tough one, because I've had kids and I've had 2 girls, and definitely we probably did Small World more now. I would prefer. I love the history of the Carousel of Progress a little bit more. So I would probably want to see that one survive, and I would bench it. However, I have way more doubts that Imagineering can ever figure out what to do with carousel of progress in this political environment, because how do you decide what progress is? It's a show about progress, and we can't put a show together about progress, because whose progress are you going to promote? So the easier fix is It's a Small World. It's a Small World needs to, and it's brilliant for its time, but it feels like always a little bit to me like I'm looking at somebody's school project. It's got a lot of foam, a lot of styrofoam sets. And I just think, why can't we put more lighting? And I it's one to me that I would definitely put more lighting and more. I would put, and it would be controversial, but I would put more visual effects behind all that stuff. I would put more projections and really brighten it up. And I would put a lot more, even if the dolls stay the same. And I would definitely do like Disneyland, and I would add more Disney characters, because that, to some kids, it's just the whole fun of the whole thing is fun. And it's educational. It's like, hey, oh, Beauty and the Beast, there they are in France. I just think that's a big part of Disney now. It does need a little bit more IP. And so I would rather bench, and I would, if I had to let one go, especially if Disneyland keeps their It's a Small World. That's another factor. You could still have Disneyland, It's a Small World, and credit it at Disney World, and we would keep the Carousel of Progress. That way, they both get saved. So
we're agreeing twice, David.
I'm going to do that, but I really do think It's a Small World is like one of the easiest fixes ever, and it would make that thing an hour wait again. I mean, if people will stand in line to meet a princess, they would get in that boat to go see a princess in a doll form. And and it still has it can still have a good long line. Now the People Mover can be long, but it's typically not. And Carousel of Progress is almost always a walk on. It's a great. Yeah. It's so, great for AC when there's nothing else to do. You can it's a lot easier to get to than Tom Sawyer's Island, so you can just go into Carousel of Progress.
If we're dreaming, I think I mentioned this before to you off the show. If Elon and Musk and Bob Iger could ever get along, Tesla should buy the rights to the ride for Carousel of Progress and let them tell the story of progress. Mission to Mars, Neuralink, Starlink. What better and then electric cars. I think that it'll never happen. But I do think that's a company and some people that could have a motivation to make that interesting again.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I honestly think, I have a feeling that until we land in a different historical era, it's going to be hard to do any of these progress things. I think we have to, a lot of political unity, something's got to happen to bring us all together before these kind of attractions can move on, and that's probably not going to happen until the 2030s.
If at all.
So you're starting People Mover, benching Carousel of Progress, and cutting Small World.
Yeah, let's go. 2-1. What about you, Easton?
I don't think I expected that.
Well, again, I wouldn't want to do it. But you're forcing me.
I'm starting the People Mover. There's no question about it. It's a staple. If someone's going to the Magic Kingdom and they're like, I think I'm only going to have time to ride 3 rides. One of them is going to be like, well, maybe not 3, but one of them is going to be like, you've got to ride the People Mover.
Now it's very nostalgic to me, but I don't know that's something that I would tell somebody they had to ride.
I'd be like, you got to do that. You got to do the People Mover. I'm going to be at Magic Kingdom for the day and have a bunch of time to ride a lot of rides. What should be on the list? People Mover.
I've taken naps on the People Mover.
I've taken naps in Carousel of Progress.
Yeah. So you're starting
I've
People
probably
Mover.
fallen asleep in It's a Small World.
All 3.
They're all great sleeping spots.
Great, cool, dark.
Just don't fall out of the boat.
Right, for real. No kidding. I honestly think I agree with both of you. I think I'm gonna bench the Carousel of Progress because it could use some updating, but I don't think it's bad. I think it gets a bad rap. Or I think it used to get a bad rap. I think now people just like to make fun of it, even though they actually like it. Like, it's fun to make fun. Like, everyone says like, oh yeah, that's a great nap. You got to do the Carousel of Progress. It's a incredible nap. And then I think I'm gonna have to cut, unfortunately, Small World.
All right.
I think they should redo the Small World music and do it as like a pop punk early 2000s version.
It's a small world. Yeah, I like it. That's a good idea. Totally. Let's
I'd listen to that
reimagine
every day
it.
of the week. Yeah, reimagine Small World.
All right. What's the final one here? Let's do it. David, you're going first on this one.
Okay.
So the final one is a full-on in light of controversy surrounding the park. So our final start bench cut is the Riverboat, Tom Sawyer Island, and the Swiss Family Treehouse. Ooh. So this is more like a experiences
Okay. That's easy.
kind of thing. Oh, shoot.
All right.
Okay.
I want to hear what David says.
Okay, this is just based on my speculations. That's a tough one. Okay, I think I would keep the Riverboat.
You're starting the Riverboat.
Yeah.
He's digging in.
Because I think the Riverboat is an experience that is kind of like the train to me. Kids can't do it anywhere. I think it's something to be mindful of, like of that time. I think it adds ambiance to both New Orleans Square. Liberty Square and Frontierland. And I think it could be also converted into something like Tiana's. I think there are a lot of things you could do with it. I'm going to upgrade the treehouse, although I would not want it to. Although I would not want it to not be Swiss Family. I have such an appreciation for that movie. It was one of the biggest movies of 1960. We've talked about in previous podcasts that it is actually one of the most profitable movies they've ever done. And I think they've just revamped the treehouse in Disneyland, which was fine, but they've made it it's inspired by Swiss Family, but they had to change it because they've not done what they should do to make that property popular. They've let an IP slip because they don't know what to do with it. Probably because it's about a family of 3 boys, and the only girl is they do adopt a girl that they find on the island. So they had to restructure the whole family and make up a new family, which I don't know why, but anyway, that's what they did there. So maybe that would be what it would take to get more people. Disneyland for a while took their treehouse and made it Tarzan's treehouse. That really didn't. I don't know that made more people go. Maybe when Tarzan first opened, it did. So I think what Swiss Family needs is more updating of that story and some more things to see when you're in there, so it's not just a set. And then again, I'll let Tom Sawyer's Island at Disney World go, because I just don't think it's really feasible for a lot of people to get over there. And the island itself is not as important to me as the atmosphere of the riverboat going around and the kinetic energy. I was just looking again at an old clip of Disneyland when you see the Autopia going and the Skyway going and the Matterhorn going and the submarines going and the train goes by and the monorail goes by. All this stuff is happening in Tomorrowland. And like if you take that out of Frontierland, there's just nothing. It's just flat sets. There's no movement. You don't see the train. You don't see and everything else on the river. You used to have canoes. You used to have the keel boats. You used to have a lot of stuff moving on that river, and they've taken everything away but the riverboat. So I'm going to keep that. I'm going to modify bench, treehouse, and I'll cut Tom Sawyer's Island.
I think this is easy for me. I'm gonna start the treehouse. I'm gonna bench the island, and I'm cutting the riverboat.
Oh, get him!
Yeah. So again, I always feel like, when we go with my kids, I'm gonna make them walk through the treehouse because I think it's the coolest thing. I just think it's the coolest thing. It's in the perfect spot. usually the last few times I've been, I just forget it. You can forget about it, right?
Right.
Because it's not really you just walk through it, right? But I think it's so cool. I just really think it's cool. And Tom Sawyer Island, I should say, I think all of these could be upgraded, right? There could be things to reimagine, all of them to make them more interesting. Like the riverboat, man, if you could put like a sports book on it, or blackjack or something like that, I think I'm. But Tom Sawyer Island, I like it. I think it's cool to run over there for a couple hours. Again, like we talked about in the last few episodes, I do think it's kind of dated and in need of something new to make more people go to it. But yeah, that would be my order. We're starting Treehouse, we're benching the island, and we're cutting the riverboat. All right, Easton.
Okay. Well, here we go. Ready? I'll start the island, bench the riverboat, and cut the treehouse.
Whoa, we're all three incredibly different here. How about that?
But watch this. Watch this. I don't think I've done any of them ever.
Really?
I don't think I've ever done any of these.
So if they all got cut, you would mean any different to you?
I wouldn't know what I was missing.
Man, David, we got to make sure he gets on these things before they're gone forever.
I'm feeling so irresponsible that on the last trip I did not get this young man on the riverboat.
I'm just thinking, David, you let a man marry your daughter who had never been on the Swiss Family Treehouse. I just don't know.
I didn't tell him that.
You didn't vet this very well.
If you would like for me to get Easton to the riverboat before it goes away, you need to like and subscribe and watch this video about 1,000 times.
If this video gets 10,000 likes, we will go to Magic Kingdom and only do those 3 and nothing else.
That's it.
All right. We thank you for hanging in with us. We would love to know, what are your start, bench, cut of the attractions at Walt Disney World? Let us know. You can reach out to us at whyilovedisney.com on Instagram and Twitter. And until next time, David and Easton, farewell. Have a great day.
See you next time.
See ya.